Hey guys, what's up? Let's talk about healer balance in Dawntrail. We're going to be starting this video off by pulling up some statistical data using FFLOGS, and we are going to be looking at the current hardest form of content, which is going to be M4 Savage. Immediately looking at the data, we can see that Sage is the least played healer, and then Scholar is the most played healer, and while it is not 50% higher Scholar numbers than Sage, we are, however, starting to approach that point. For this fight, fascinatingly enough, we can also see that Astrologian is definitely dwarfing White Mage numbers, and so if we went in total sum, we are looking at Scholar being the most played, followed by Astro, then White Mage, and then bringing out the rear is going to be Sage. Obviously, this would lead to a quote-unquote ideal composition being Scholar with Astro, and this has given rise to the meme that even I've been told, that even I have been corrected on. How dare I? That apparently White Mage and Sage are just truly dog shit. I will say that you are currently listening to a coward. I was invited to the media tour, and in no chance in heck are you gonna see me upload funny numbers onto this funny website, because I am very scared of Yoshi P. And I really don't want to do anything funny. But you can see that other people have very graciously, very kindly uploaded funny numbers for me. And you can see that in a clear party, because I just didn't join Bars groups, I just like doing clear groups for people. Shocking, because I did that with the Epic of Alexander. I just like seeing people clear. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. And while I might say that in a little bit of a monotone delivery, it actually does make me feel good. But you can see that my highest funny number, or Wicked Thunder, is going to be a 73 on Sage. So pardon my French when I do not believe that Sage is deficient in any capacity. In fact, if you dig into the funny numbers that were uploaded, which are fewer than what actually was in reality, I guess some people were also a little scared to upload their funny numbers onto the funny site, there are clears of M4S on every single healer, which I would like to think gives what I'm about to say a little bit of credibility. There is not a single healer in Dawntrail that I think is deficient. Oh, I will also add this. I am not talking about these funny numbers in a static. I'm not talking about them in a parse group. I'm talking about we are doing clear runs in Party Finder where I am basically having someone ram their boot up my ass, and how the DPS know what the hell is a feint, what is an addle. Like, we are talking about this is the realest of the real. Like, it is going in raw level of real, and that is what my opinion here is based off of. There isn't a single healer that I would say is truly, genuinely deficient. Every single healer is performing very well. You can do your job, you can absolutely get through the content. And this will get me into saying my one concern for healers is, yes, when you're in Party Finder, things go in raw, because people don't like using their funny buttons. With White Mage, you are lacking one of the 60-second cooldowns that Astro has, which is Collective Unconscious, which reduces damage taken by 10%. You can restore HP as long as people don't hit 0 HP or obviously below. I keenly, in Party Finder, feel that that extra 10% mitigation has been useful, with the caveat that that is usually when the barrier healer is very much not picking up their weight and they're chatting me. And for anyone who's not familiar with the term chatting, that's basically when they're not helping you out with the healing and they're more concerned with pressing the one button. And hey, there's nothing wrong with pressing the one button, because I know people will get in the comments, like, obviously the goal is to minimize on GCD casts of heals, but I'm talking about, like, use your OGCDs, like, at least help me out a bit. Unironically, I've seen White Mages that just don't even use their lilies, and I'm like, come on, that's damage neutral. In fact, that's a damage gain, because if you put a Flatus Misery inside a burst window, all those outside the GCD ones go into the burst window. Like, you get what I'm saying. But just to make sure that that point wasn't lost, the only time that I feel that a healer is deficient would be White Mage, specifically because Astro has just one more damage mitigation button, which is Collective Unconscious, and that is the only area where I feel it's deficient. Now, someone could very easily say, hey, but Astro has Neutral Sect too, and Neutral Sect you can keep casting over and over again, which makes dealing with mechanics that hit over and over again, like Kern Call, which we do see in M2S, and we do see in M3S. Astro's Neutral Sect absolutely makes those mechanics easier, to which I'd say yes. I would absolutely agree. However, that also is underestimating the power of White Mage's Temperance combined with their new ability, which is Divine Caress, which is actually really, really good. And now, while I'm not one to say that Macrocosmos is by any means a bad ability, I do find myself, however, preferring Lilybell, because Lilybell continuously props up people's health as they're being damaged, whereas with Macrocosmos, you basically need to immediately pop it before people die, and there is definitely a chance of failure with that, whereas Lilybell, I found that I've gotten a lot more mileage out of it, and if I do need to burst it, you just activate it early. And so to me, it's really, when we start picking at hairs like that, I really do feel like there are situations where I like Astra more than White Mage, and situations I like White Mage more than Astra there. And likewise, we could also say the same thing for Scholar and Sage. Scholar has basically Ham and Pineapple, which are great abilities on Sage. I like those abilities very much this tier, because there are points where those auto attacks are absolutely taking a dump on top of the tank. And so with Scholar, Ham and Pineapple are combined as Seraph. And so that is really good for many situations. And I am not a Seraph hater, I am a Seraph believer, I love it. However, Sage, having those broken down, I find very, very, very handy. I also find it handy in dungeons. There's no reason why people shouldn't use Pineapple during tank pulls. But kind of similar to the argument made for Astra's Neutral Sect, Scholar Seraphism on the GCD provides so much freaking healing and so much barriers that it is absolutely bizarre. Now I'm gonna meme here and put the timestamp that Sage is weak here. Which I'm laughing at, because yes, Seraphism is a busted ability, but do you know what is also an absolutely crazy ability? Philosopher. And this literally increases healing magic potency by 20%, so that's 20% larger barriers for you. You also apply what is basically a heal over time effect of 150 potency across the entire party for 20 seconds. Which means that you get roughly 900 potency of healing across the party. Meaning that if you need to have bigger barriers and cast on GCD barriers, Philosopher is definitely not a slouch in that department. If you need more healing off of the GCD, you know what? That ability, Philosopher, has you covered there too. And I can't tell you how often I use Seraphism literally just as an extra Whispering Dawn, because I don't really have a great time to use it like anywhere else. Like, it's like if I don't want to cast non-GCD barrier, but I want the extra heal, I'll pop Seraphism. Like, I'm not going to be shy about that. The only cooldown that is truly wasted is the one that you don't use. Now, I'm also going to add that, hey, you know what else makes Sage weak? The ability to cast all barriers at any time while moving. That sounds just terrible, right? I digress, but hopefully this is driving the point home that in no capacity is Sage deficient. Now I'm going to say something that is going to be a little bit of a hot take. Scholar's Expedient is nice. I'm the first person to say that. I am a Scholar main. If I truly had to pick between Sage and Scholar, I would obviously always pick Scholar. I'm not here to dump on Expedient. It's great. However, and it's a massive, big Nicki Minaj sized however, let's be real. When you use Expedient, it can throw people off. There are times when you're thinking, oh, I'm going to be so smart, and I'm going to use Expedient here, only to see people, especially in Party Finder, throw themselves off of an edge. And can you blame them for it? I'm sorry, if you're going to use Expedient during Witch Hunt, you're going to be changing how people move. And people, especially, and we're talking about M4S, one of the earliest mechanics here, people are so used to doing a very specific dance there in Party Finder, especially in clear groups, that you really using Expedient there is almost trolling. Then that can get people over the edge. And now if we're going to look for the positive sides of it, and there are definitely positives, like, don't get me wrong, movement abilities in a game like this where positioning is basically very, very vital is huge. It's very powerful. But I'm going to ask you about EE2, where basically you need to identify how many times you're hit. Are you a long 2? Are you like a long 3? Are like what are you? And you need to reposition really quick. Is Expedient better to be used for the first time that the groups go out to their assigned squares? Or is it better for the potential spreads or pair stacks? Or is it better to use that 10 seconds of extra movement speed after the spreads or the pairs and getting into this final spread? Or is it better to help everyone get back together for that AoE after? Which I think would probably be the weakest use case, but hopefully you get what I'm saying here. The thing is, it's not that clear cut and dry where this ability is going to be useful in a clear party. And I'm going to be very, very aggressively honest here. There are many times when I have wanted to press Expedient, and then I've held off of it because I'm like, it might not be great here. And so I've often used it quite simply just for the mitigation, because that is still very powerful mitigation. It's useful, it's very useful, because especially in Party Finder, outside of a static group that's not expecting it, Expedient can be a really trolly, really bad thing to do. Like, I wouldn't do it, but part of me would wonder, hey, what kind of a collage of people dying to like witching hour could you do if you just used Expedient? Like the first, like not early, like you don't give people a warning about it. The trick about that kind of a compilation would be you wait for the first witching hours to drop on either the healers or tanks, then you pop it, and then as people are doing that little dance around the marker, you just pop Expedient, and then you see people overshoot or undershoot and just die. Dick move, bro. Now, just for the sake of saying it, like, if people really want me to tell them healers and where the numbers come from here, I really, honest to God, couldn't tell you. Do you need, for Azure Thunder, a Scholar crit low barrier that Sage somehow can't deploy big enough barriers for? No, you don't. Azure Thunder does hit a little hard, but it also doesn't hit that hard. Frankly, I am more worried about when you have the flaming swords and then the two platforms, one on the left, one on the right, and then the main tank is absolutely getting pounded to the dirt, but hey, your main healer isn't looking at them. I'm more worried about throwing a Haima on them, as well as popping Soteria in order to get as much healing into them, because, oh yeah, and throw a Toracle on them for extra 10% mitigation. I'm much more worried about that, bro. I'm so much more worried about that than Azure Thunder, because I cannot tell you how often I have seen in a party that should have cleared, the tank just get crunched, even with me doing all that, because it's like the main healer's just not looking at it, and so I now overcompensate there. Obviously, you also want the main tank to use mitigation, so don't think I'm putting it all on the pure healer on the other side. This is also why you will see me, if I'm pure healer, shimmy over to H1. If I'm barrier healer, shimmy over to H2. But really, for the numbers, I couldn't tell you why. I don't know, because honestly, White Mage is fine, other than if you're with a barrier healer that doesn't know what they're doing, you will definitely want to split up your mitigations, because Astro absolutely pumps out mitigations. Like, I really do like that. It feels like the cadence of Astro's mitigations does line up well with the tier. So White Mage is just missing a 60-second AoE mitigation, really. And in terms of Scholar Sage, I really couldn't tell you why Scholar's absolutely dwarfing Sage's numbers here. I'm gonna cap off this video by talking about my favorite healers, and quite simply, I love Scholar, and I will always love Scholar, and I like big barriers, and I cannot lie. I like Expedient, one cannot deny how good that is. I could continue to rhyme, but we'll save that for another video. Sage is great. The mobility, the barriers, I think that honestly, in the vast majority of cases, I honestly feel like Philosopha is stronger than Seraphism. Oh god, I know, he said it, but that's what I feel. Like, if I'm honest, I do feel like Philosopha is better than Seraphism in most cases. In this expansion, honestly, Astro, I think that the one thing that really surprised me about Astro was honestly the light speed changes. I really do like the light speed changes. I like them a lot. Like a lot. And the card system, I do not know how I feel fully about the new rendition. It's like, yes, you have 2 tank cards, which oftentimes I'm just not even using unless the tank really does need it. And then you have like a DPS card. And you have like a card that either AoE heal or not. Like it's fine. I do like the diversity in the card system, but is it like gameplay revolution? I don't know. But I can absolutely tell you that with Astro, I am loving Lightspeed. Like, what an amazing ability. Like, I'm trying to, like, with my much more casual like static group, like just play Astro because I just really like it. It's just like I just like it, and it's really that simple. But is that because of a power difference? I don't really think it's a power difference. It's like Astro does have a lot more mobility with this. I think this was one of the best changes ever introduced to the job. But I definitely am still bitter over losing Nocturnal Astro, or it'd probably be much more hype hooray over it. But really, those are my preferences. I'd say all of them are great. They're all good.